The mining colony on planet Drakkar 7 had been running for 3 years. The workers came from Earth to dig for rare metals and crystals. The planet had purple skies and tall mountains made of shining rock. Every day, large machines dug deeper into the ground, searching for valuable minerals to send back home. Commander Jake Morrison walked slowly toward the new dig site. He was a tall man with lines on his face from years of hard work. The sun was setting, painting the sky in deep purple and orange colors. Something felt wrong today. The ground sensors had picked up strange readings from the deep caves below. Jake stopped at the edge of a large hole in the ground. His lead scientist, Karen Wright, was already there with her equipment. She looked worried as she studied the screen showing what was beneath them. "How deep does it go?" Jake asked her. Karen looked up from her screen. "At least 200 meters down. But that's not what worries me. Look at these heat readings." She turned the screen so Jake could see it. There were large hotspots deep underground, moving slowly in patterns that looked almost planned. "Those aren't natural," Jake said quietly. "Living things make heat patterns like that." Karen nodded. "I think we found something big down there, something that was here before we arrived." Jake pulled out his radio. "Morrison to all teams. Stop all digging in Sector 7. I want a science team ready to go underground in 30 minutes. Within the hour, Jake and Karen were climbing down into the caves with 5 other workers. They wore lights on their helmets and carried tools for taking samples. The air got warmer as they went deeper. The walls of the cave were smooth, almost like someone had melted them into shape. "This isn't natural rock formation," Karen whispered. She ran her hand along the wall. "Something made these tunnels. Something with extreme heat." They walked for 20 minutes through the winding tunnels. Then the passage opened into a massive room. Jake stopped so suddenly that Karen bumped into him. The room was as big as a football field. The ceiling was so high their lights could barely reach it. And everywhere they looked, they saw nests. The nests were made from melted metal and rock shaped into large bowls. Each nest was the size of a small house. Inside each one were eggs. Huge eggs that glowed with inner light, shifting from gold to amber to bright orange. "Oh my God," Karen breathed. "Jake, there are at least 20 nests here." Jake moved closer to the nearest nest. The eggs were warm to the touch. He could feel heat coming off them in waves. Through the shell, he could see shadows moving inside. "These eggs are alive," he said. "Whatever is inside them is almost ready to hatch." Karen was taking readings with her scanner. "The life signs are incredible. Whatever these creatures are, they have internal body temperatures over 2,000 degrees. That's hotter than molten lava." A sound made them all freeze. It came from deep in the tunnels beyond the nesting room. A low rumble that made the ground shake under their feet. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We should leave," one of the workers said nervously. "Right now." But before they could move, one of the eggs began to crack. The shell split apart with a sound like breaking glass. Something small tumbled out onto the nest. It was a baby dragon. The creature was no bigger than a medium dog. Its scales were bright red and shiny like polished rubies. Small wings stuck to its back, still wet and folded. It opened its eyes and looked right at Jake. The eyes glowed like fire from inside. The baby dragon made a small chirping sound. It tried to stand, but its legs were shaky. After a moment, it managed to balance itself. Then it chirped again, louder this time. "It's calling for its mother," Karen said softly. The rumbling sound came again, much closer now. The walls shook. More dust rained down from above. Through the tunnel at the far end of the room, they could see something moving. "Something enormous. Run!" Jake shouted. They ran back toward the exit tunnel as fast as they could. Behind them, the rumbling grew into a roar that hurt their ears. Jake looked back once and saw it. The adult dragon was massive. Its head alone was bigger than their mining vehicles. Scales covered its body like armor plates, dark red mixed with black. Wings scraped against the ceiling as it moved. Its eyes burned with ancient intelligence, but the dragon was not looking at them. It moved straight to the nest where the baby had hatched. The huge creature lowered its head gently and nuzzled the tiny dragon with its nose. The baby chirped happily and tried to climb onto its parent's head. Jake stopped running. "Wait," he called to the others. "Look." They watched as the adult dragon carefully picked up the baby in its mouth and placed it back in the nest. Then it curled its body around the nest, protecting it. 2 more adult dragons emerged from other tunnels, both just as large. They moved to their own nest, checking on their eggs. "Their parents," Karen said in wonder. "We found their nursery. They're just protecting their babies. Jake felt his heart still racing. We need to get out of here and establish a safe zone. No more digging near these caves. The last thing we need is angry dragons thinking we're a threat to their young. They made it back to the surface as the last light faded from the sky. Jake immediately called a meeting of all the senior staff. We have a situation, he told them. There are intelligent creatures living under our colony. Dragons, real dragons. And they have babies. The room erupted in confused voices, everyone talking at once, asking questions, expressing disbelief. We need to contact the Galactic Council, said Danny Cooper, the young security officer. They need to know about this. And we need to set up barriers, added another worker. Keep everyone away from the caves. Karen was still looking at her scanner data. These creatures have been here for a very long time. Long before we arrived. This is their planet, not ours. Jake nodded slowly. We'll send a full report to Earth and to the Council. In the meantime, no one goes near those caves. We share this planet now, and we need to be respectful neighbors. But far above the planet, in the darkness of space, other eyes were watching. A ship hung in orbit, its sensors recording everything that happened on the surface. Inside the ship, Captain Vexthor studied the data with growing excitement. He was a Zentari, a race known across the galaxy as traders and merchants. But Vexthor dealt in more exotic goods. Rare creatures, dangerous animals, things that rich buyers would pay fortunes to own. Dragon eggs, he hissed to his crew. Do you know what those are worth? His second-in-command, Krell, looked nervous. Captain, the planet is claimed by humans. The Galactic Council recognizes their rights here. Vexthor laughed, a cold sound. Humans are new to space. They don't understand the value of what they found. By the time they realize it, we'll be long gone with our cargo. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the raiding teams. We move at dawn when their security is weakest. I want those eggs and any babies that have hatched. The adults will be a problem, but we have neural dampeners. They won't be able to stop us. The Zentari ship powered up its weapons in silence, hidden from the colony's basic sensors. Below on the planet, the dragons slept peacefully in their nests, unaware of the danger coming with the sunrise. Jake Morrison stood at his window, looking out at the stars. He had a bad feeling in his gut, the kind that came from years of experience in dangerous places. Something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on what. He decided to double the security patrols for the night. It probably wouldn't matter, but it made him feel better. As he finally went to bed, he had no idea that tomorrow would change everything. Tomorrow, the dragons would need help. And tomorrow, humanity would have to choose what kind of neighbors they wanted to be. The attack came when the two suns were just starting to rise. The sky was turning from dark purple to soft orange. Most of the colony workers were still asleep in their beds. The few guards on duty were tired from the long night shift. The Zentari ships dropped out of the sky without warning. They were small and fast, designed for quick raids. Their weapons fired bright blue bolts that hit the colony's defense towers. The towers exploded in showers of sparks and metal. Jake Morrison woke up to the sound of alarms screaming through the building. He jumped out of bed and grabbed his weapon from the table. His heart was pounding as he ran toward the command center. "What's happening?" he shouted as he burst through the door. Danny Cooper was at the main computer, his face white with fear. "Unknown ships, sir. They came out of nowhere. They're attacking the dig sites, the caves," Jake realized. "They're going after the dragons." He hit the emergency button that would wake everyone in the colony. "All people, this is Commander Morrison. We are under attack. Security teams, get to your positions. Everyone else, get to the safe bunkers. Move now." The building shook as another explosion rocked the colony. On the screen, Jake could see 6 Zentari ships landing near the cave entrances. Soldiers in dark armor were jumping out, carrying strange weapons and equipment. "We need to help the dragons," Karen said, running into the command center. She was still in her sleep clothes but had grabbed her scanner. "Those eggs can't defend themselves." "Our security team isn't strong enough to fight them," Danny said. "We have maybe 20 armed guards. They have at least 50 soldiers, maybe more." Jake felt helpless. He had people to protect, colonists who could die if he made the wrong choice. But he also knew what would happen to the dragons if the raiders got into the caves. Deep underground, the adult dragons sensed the danger. They could feel the vibrations of the explosions, smell the smoke from burning equipment. The 3 adult dragons moved to block the tunnel entrances, placing their massive bodies between the threat and their nests. The first Zentari soldiers entered the caves carefully. They had done raids like this before on other planets. Their weapons were set to stun, not kill. Dead specimens were worth nothing. The lead dragon, the one with copper-colored scales, saw the soldiers and roared. The sound was so loud it made rocks fall from the ceiling. The dragon's throat began to glow as it prepared to breathe fire. Captain Vexthor watched through the cameras on his soldiers' helmets. "Activate the neural dampeners, now!" The Zentari soldiers pulled out small devices and turned them on. The devices made a high-pitched sound that human ears couldn't hear. But the dragons heard it. They roared in pain and confusion. Their bodies began to move slowly, like they were trying to walk through deep water. "Good," Vexthor said with satisfaction. "The dampeners are working. Move in and secure the eggs." The soldiers rushed forward while the dragons struggled to move. Even slowed down, the dragons were dangerous. One soldier got too close and the black-scaled dragon managed to hit him with its tail. The soldier flew across the cave and crashed into the wall. But there were too many soldiers and the dampeners were too strong. One by one, the adult dragons collapsed to the ground. Their eyes were still open, still aware, but their bodies wouldn't obey them. They could only watch as the raiders approached their nests. The baby dragons that had already hatched huddled together in fear. There were 7 of them now, ranging in size from small dogs to large wolves. The smallest one, with scales like blue sapphires, tried to be brave. It stood in front of its siblings and made a tiny roar. A small flame came out of its mouth, barely hot enough to singe the soldier's armor. The soldier laughed. "Look at this little one. Thinks it's fierce." He reached down to grab the baby dragon. The sapphire dragon bit his gloved hand. It couldn't hurt him through the armor, but it tried. That's when the copper dragon, despite the neural dampeners, forced its head up off the ground. It took every bit of strength the creature had. The dragon opened its mouth and released a sound that was different from its earlier roars. It was a call for help. The sound traveled through the rock, amplified by the crystal formations in the planet's crust. It went up through the ground, through the air, and out into space. Most creatures in the galaxy couldn't hear it. Most wouldn't understand it even if they could, but one person heard it clearly. Sergeant Lisa Hayes was 2 star systems away when the call hit her. She was checking the engines on her cargo ship, the Wanderer. It was an old ship, nothing fancy, but it was fast and reliable. The feeling came suddenly, like someone had pressed on her brain. Not painful, but impossible to ignore. With the pressure came emotions that weren't hers. Fear, desperation, and a fierce need to protect something precious. "You okay, Lisa?" Her co-pilot, Pete Collins, called from the cockpit. "You look weird." Lisa grabbed her head. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" The feeling came again, stronger now. Lisa could almost see images in her mind. Baby creatures in danger. Parents unable to help. A desperate need for someone, anyone, to come. "We need to go to Drakkar 7, Lisa said suddenly. "Right now." Pete looked confused. "That mining colony? We don't have any cargo going there. It's 2 hours out of our way. I know. Just trust me. Something's really wrong there." Lisa had learned to trust her instincts during her years in the military. She had served with the Terran Defense Force for 10 years before becoming a cargo hauler. Some people called it intuition. Lisa called it survival instinct. And right now, every instinct she had was screaming at her to go help. Pete saw the look on her face and knew better than to argue. "All right." Setting course for Drakkar 7. The Wanderer jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward the distant planet. Back in the caves, the Zentari soldiers were loading the dragon eggs onto floating platforms. The eggs were heavy, each one weighing as much as a small car. The anti-gravity clamps held them steady as the soldiers moved them toward the exit. The baby dragons cried out, high-pitched sounds of distress. They tried to run to their parents, but the soldiers herded them into cages using electric prods. Every time a baby got close to the bars, a shock would push it back. The adult dragons lay on the ground, their eyes filled with rage and helplessness. The copper dragon tried once more to move, to fight, to do anything. Its muscles strained against the neural dampeners. For a moment, it managed to lift one claw off the ground, but then the soldiers increased the power on the dampeners and the dragon collapsed again. All eggs secured. One soldier reported to Captain Vexthor. "We have 7 live babies as well. Ready to begin withdrawal." "Excellent," Vexthor replied. "Get everything loaded on the ships. We'll be out of here before the humans can even call for help." On the surface, Jake Morrison was organizing what resistance he could. His security team had managed to damage one of the Zentari ships, but it wasn't enough. The raiders had better weapons and more training. They're coming out of the caves, Danny reported. They have the eggs. All of them. Karen watched the screens with tears in her eyes. Those babies are going to die. Dragon eggs need constant heat or the embryos won't develop. The Zentari will keep them in cold storage and they'll never hatch. We can't stop them, Jake said bitterly. I sent a distress call to the Galactic Patrol, but they're hours away. By then, these raiders will be gone. The Zentari soldiers emerged from the caves carrying their stolen cargo. The floating platforms moved smoothly, loaded with dragon eggs and cages full of crying babies. The adult dragon's call for help continued, growing weaker as exhaustion took over. But the call had been heard. High above the planet, the Wanderer dropped out of faster-than-light speed. Lisa immediately saw the Zentari ships and the signs of battle at the colony. Holy crap, Pete said. That's a full raiding fleet. Lisa, we can't fight them. We're just a cargo ship. Lisa was staring at the main screen, her hands gripping the controls. The pressure in her head was like thunder now. She could feel the dragons below, sense their pain and fear. She knew, without knowing how she knew, that there were baby dragons in danger. I don't care, she said quietly. We're not letting them take those dragons. Lisa, be reasonable. We have one plasma cannon meant for clearing space debris. They have military-grade weapons. We'll be destroyed in seconds. Lisa looked at her friend and co-pilot. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. Pete, I've felt a lot of things in my life. Fear, anger, joy, sadness. But I've never felt anything like this. Something down there is calling for help. Something that trusted me to hear it and come. I'm not walking away. Pete looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed and started transferring power to the weapon systems. You're insane. But I guess that's why we're friends. If we're doing this, we do it right. Lisa activated the ship's communication system. Zentari vessels, this is the cargo ship Wanderer. You are engaged in illegal activity. Release your prisoners immediately. There was a moment of silence. Then a cold voice replied in heavily accented standard language. Unknown ship, you are interfering with legal salvage operations. Leave now or be destroyed. Not happening, Lisa said. She targeted the lead Zentari ship and fired. The plasma bolt from the Wanderer hit the Zentari flagship's shield. The shield held, but the impact made the whole ship shake. Red warning lights flashed across their bridge. Return fire, Captain Vexthor shouted. All ships, destroy that cargo. Hauler. 5 Zentari warships turned toward the Wanderer, their weapons charged up, ready to fire. Lisa could see the energy building in their gun ports. In seconds, her ship would be hit by enough firepower to blast a hole through a mountain. Hold on, she yelled to Pete. She pulled the control stick hard to the right. The Wanderer spun and dove, moving faster than a cargo ship should be able to move. The Zentari weapons fired, 5 bolts of deadly energy that should have hit their target, but Lisa wasn't there anymore. How did you do that? Pete shouted, gripping his seat as the ship twisted and turned through space. I don't know, Lisa shouted back. The pressure in her head had changed. It wasn't just a call for help anymore. Now it felt like someone was showing her things. She could see the Zentari ships before they fired. She knew where their weapons were pointing before they pulled the trigger. It was like having a map of the battle in her mind that updated faster than any computer. The dragons were helping her. Down in the caves, the copper dragon had figured out what was happening. It could sense Lisa through the telepathic link. It could feel her courage, her determination to save the babies. And even though the neural dampeners kept its body locked in place, the dragon's mind was still free. It reached out with its consciousness and touched Lisa's mind. Through that connection, it showed her things. Weak points in the Zentari ships, the exact location of their neural dampener generator, the timing of their weapon systems, information that Lisa shouldn't have been able to know. Pete, target the 3rd ship from the left, bottom rear section. There's a power generator there. How do you know that? Just trust me. Pete locked the targeting system on the spot Lisa indicated. It didn't look special. Just another section of hull plating. But when Lisa fired and the bolt hit, the entire ship went dark. Emergency systems kicked in, but the ship was crippled. What the hell? Pete stared at his screens in disbelief. That was a 1 in a million shot. It's the dragons, Lisa said. They're in my head, Pete. They're showing me things, helping me. She fired again, this time at a different ship. The bolt hit the neural dampener generator and it exploded in a shower of sparks. Immediately, the effect on the dragons below changed. In the caves, the copper dragon felt the dampener's power weaken. It still couldn't move fully, but it could move more than before. The dragon's throat began to glow. Heat built up inside its chest, hotter and hotter, until fire erupted from its mouth. The blast of flame shot through the tunnel, catching 3 Zentari soldiers who were still loading eggs. Their armor protected them from the worst of it, but they dropped what they were carrying and ran. One of the dragon eggs rolled off its platform and started to fall. The black-scaled dragon, also freed from some of the dampener's effects, moved its tail lightning fast. It caught the egg gently and placed it back in the nest. The dragon's eyes burned with anger now. These creatures had come into their home, hurt their family, and tried to steal their young. That would not stand. Up in space, Lisa was conducting a wild dance with death. The Wanderer spun and twisted through the Zentari weapons fire. Bolts of energy passed so close to the hull that Pete could feel the heat through the walls. "We can't keep this up forever," he warned. "Our shields are at 40%. One direct hit and we're done." "I know," Lisa said through gritted teeth. The telepathic connection with the dragons was showing her more information than her brain could process. She could feel the adult dragons fighting against the dampeners. She could sense the baby dragons crying in their cages. She could even feel the eggs, the lives inside them, growing weaker as they were moved away from the heat they needed. She had to end this fast. "Give me everything," she told Pete. "All power to weapons and engines. Shut down life support if you have to." "That's crazy. If we lose pressure, we die." "We die if they shoot us too. At least this way we can fight back." Pete's hands flew over his controls. "Routing all power. We've got maybe 5 minutes of air left." The Wanderer suddenly accelerated, moving twice as fast as before. Lisa aimed at the Zentari flagship, the ship where Captain Vexthor commanded the raid. The dragon's mind showed her exactly where to aim. "This is for the babies," she whispered, and fired. The bolt hit the flagship's main engine. The explosion was massive, sending pieces of the ship spinning off into space. The ship didn't explode completely, but it was clearly disabled. Emergency pods started ejecting as the crew abandoned ship. Captain Vexthor watched his command fall apart around him. Alarms screamed from every console. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed, and all because of one small cargo ship. "How is this possible?" he hissed. "No human should be able to fight like this." His tactical officer had the answer. "Sir, I'm detecting massive telepathic activity from the planet's surface. The dragons are communicating with the cargo ship. They're helping the pilot." Vexthor made a choice. They had come for dragon eggs and babies. They had some of them loaded already. If they left now, at least they wouldn't leave empty-handed. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "Jump to hyperspace immediately." But Lisa had anticipated this too. The dragons had shown her the Zentari escape routes. She moved the Wanderer to block the most direct path away from the planet. "Going somewhere?" she transmitted to the Zentari ships. The remaining Zentari vessels tried to go around her, but every time they moved, Lisa was there first. It was impossible. One ship against their fleet should have been easy to bypass. But Lisa moved like she could predict their every action. Because she could. Then something happened that no one expected. Down on the planet, the copper dragon finally broke free of the neural dampeners completely. The dragon's rage and protective instinct gave it strength beyond what the dampeners could control. It rose to its full height, spread its massive wings, and launched itself upward. The dragon crashed through the cave ceiling, through layers of rock and dirt, bursting out into the morning air. Without hesitation, it kept going up into the sky. "Is that dragon flying into space?" Danny asked from the colony command center, watching on the sensors in disbelief. "Dragons can survive in vacuum," Karen said, reading her database files frantically. "In the old legends, they were called void flyers. I thought it was just mythology, but it's real. They can live in space." The copper dragon's wings beat powerfully, carrying it higher and higher. The thin atmosphere of the upper sky became the void of space, but the dragon didn't slow down. Its scales seemed to glow brighter. heat radiating from its body even in the cold of space. The Zentari soldiers in their ships saw the dragon coming and panicked. They had weapons that could hurt it, but a fully grown dragon in space was a terrifying opponent. It was huge, fast, and very, very angry. The dragon slammed into one of the cargo ships carrying stolen eggs. Its claws ripped through the hull like paper. The ship's artificial gravity failed and the eggs started to float free. The dragon caught them carefully in its claws and tail, protecting them even in the chaos of battle. "Fall back!" Vexthor screamed to his remaining ships. "Forget the cargo, just run!" The Zentari ships that could still move started to flee. But the dragon was faster. It chased down a transport carrying cages of baby dragons. The ship tried to fire at it, but the dragon dodged and breathed fire. In space, the fire didn't burn like it would in atmosphere, but it was hot enough to melt the ship's weapons. The dragon tore open the cargo bay and pulled out the cages. One by one, it broke them open, freeing the baby dragons inside. The babies couldn't survive in space for long, but their parent was there to protect them, wrapping its wings around them to share its heat. Lisa watched this all happen while keeping the remaining Zentari ships pinned. The connection with the dragon was stronger now. She could feel what it felt, the joy of having its babies back, the determination to save every single egg, the gratitude toward the human who had come when called. "We need to land," Pete said. "We're out of air in 2 minutes." "One more thing first," Lisa said. She targeted the last functional Zentari cargo ship, the one that still had dragon eggs in its hold. "Give them back." She fired a precise shot that disabled the ship's engines without destroying it. The ship went dead in space, unable to move or fight. "That's all of them," Pete gasped, struggling to breathe as the oxygen ran low. "Now can we please get some air?" Lisa turned the Wanderer toward the planet and started descending. Behind her, the copper dragon was gathering up all the recovered eggs and babies. The other 2 adult dragons had made it out of the caves and into space as well. Together, the 3 dragons formed a protective formation around their young as they flew back down to the surface. The Zentari ships that could still move jumped to hyperspace and ran. Vexthor's flagship, too damaged to jump, was left floating in space. Within hours, a galactic patrol ship would arrive and arrest everyone aboard. The Wanderer landed at the colony with seconds of air left. Lisa and Pete stumbled out of the ship, gasping and coughing. The colonists rushed to help them, bringing oxygen masks and water. Jake Morrison was there, his face full of questions. "What the hell just happened up there? You took on an entire raiding fleet in a cargo ship." Lisa couldn't answer yet. She was still breathing hard, still fee. The days after the battle were strange and busy. The Galactic Patrol arrived and arrested the Zentari raiders who hadn't escaped. News reporters from 20 different species came to the planet, wanting to hear about the cargo pilot who fought a fleet to save dragon babies. Lisa Hayes didn't feel like a hero. She felt tired and confused. The telepathic connection with the dragons had changed something in her brain. She could still feel them even when they were far away. It was like having extra senses that she never had before. "How are you feeling?" Karen asked her one morning. They were sitting in the colony cafeteria drinking coffee while the sun rose. "Weird," Lisa admitted. "I can feel them out there. The dragons. It's not loud or anything. Just a presence in the back of my mind, like knowing someone is in the next room." Karen nodded. She had been studying the dragons every day since the attack. "Your brain formed a telepathic bond with them. It's unprecedented. No human has ever connected with an alien species this way before. Is it permanent?" "I don't know, maybe. Does it bother you?" Lisa thought about it. "No, actually, it feels kind of nice. Like I'm not alone anymore, even when I'm by myself." The colonists and the dragons had reached an unspoken agreement. The humans stayed away from the nesting caves and the dragons didn't bother the mining operations. But every day, 1 or 2 of the adult dragons would come to the colony entrance, just watching. They seemed curious about the humans who had helped them. Jake Morrison spent those days dealing with officials and paperwork. The Galactic Council wanted a full report. The Terran government wanted to know if the colony was safe. And everyone wanted to know what would happen next with the dragons. "We need to establish formal relations," said a council representative named Vel. He was a Quarian, A species that looked like a jellyfish with tentacles. His voice came through a translator device. These dragons are clearly intelligent. They need to be recognized as sentient beings. How do we communicate with them? Jake asked. They don't speak any language we know. We have Lisa, Karen pointed out. She can understand them. Lisa was brought into the meeting. She had changed into clean clothes and looked more rested, but there were dark circles under her eyes. The telepathic connection took energy to maintain, and she was still learning how to control it. Can you ask the dragons if they would be willing to meet with us? Vel asked her. We need to establish peaceful relations and discuss how to share this planet. I can try, Lisa said. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. The connection was there, warm and steady. She thought about what she wanted to communicate. Images of humans and dragons meeting, talking, being friends instead of strangers. The response came quickly. Not words, but feelings and images. The dragons were willing to meet. They were curious about the humans, especially the one who had heard their call and come to help. They'll meet with us, Lisa said. Tomorrow at sunrise, at the entrance to the main cave. The next morning, a group of humans gathered at the cave entrance. Jake led the group along with Karen, Lisa, Pete, and several other colonists. They brought no weapons. That had been Lisa's idea, communicated to her by the dragons. If the humans wanted peace, they should come in peace. The copper dragon emerged first from the darkness of the cave. In daylight, its scales shimmered like polished metal. Behind it came the black dragon and a third one with scales of deep gold. The baby dragons peeked out from behind their parents, curious but cautious. The copper dragon stopped 10 meters from the humans. Its head was as high as a 2-story building. When it breathed, small wisps of smoke came from its nostrils. Lisa stepped forward. She could feel the dragon's attention focused on her. Through the bond, she sensed its emotions: gratitude, caution, hope. She spoke out loud, even though she knew the dragon didn't understand English. The words were for the other humans, but through the telepathic bond, she sent the meaning directly to the dragon's mind. We want to thank you for meeting with us. We want to be friends, to share this planet in peace. We know this was your home first, and we respect that. The dragon's response flooded into her mind, images and emotions that Lisa had to translate into words. It was like trying to describe music to someone who had never heard sound. The dragons have been on this planet for a very long time, Lisa said, her eyes closed as she focused on the connection. Millions of years. They remember when the sky was different colors, when the mountains were in different places. They have watched civilizations come and go across the galaxy. Why didn't they contact other species before now? Jake asked. Lisa listened to the dragon's response. They didn't need to. Dragons are patient. They were happy to watch and wait. But the Zentari attack showed them that the galaxy has become dangerous. They can't hide anymore. They need allies. Friends who will help protect their nests while they hunt or sleep. Why did they choose humans? Karen wondered. The copper dragon made a sound somewhere between a purr and a rumble. Through the bond, Lisa felt what it meant and smiled. Because we answered their call. When they cried for help, we came running. We didn't have to. We gained nothing from it. But we came anyway because it was the right thing to do. That means something to them. Trust isn't about power or technology. It's about actions. Vel, the Quarian representative, stepped forward. He extended a tentacle in his species' gesture of peace. The copper dragon studied him for a moment, then slowly lowered its head. Its nose touched the tentacle gently. Through the telepathic network, all 3 dragons sent out a message. Lisa received it clearly, but so did several other colonists who had spent time near the dragons. Even Pete felt something, like a whisper in his mind. The message was simple: peace, friendship, alliance. Over the next few weeks, an amazing thing happened. The colonists and the dragons learned to live together. The humans set up thermal generators near the nests, helping to keep the eggs warm. The dragons, in return, used their fire to help with mining operations, melting through rock much faster than human machines could. The baby dragons grew quickly. Within a month, they were the size of horses. They were playful and curious, and some of them started coming into the colony to explore. The human children were fascinated by them. One afternoon, Lisa was walking through the colony when she heard shouting. She ran toward the sound and found a crowd gathered around the central square. The sapphire baby dragon, the brave little one who had tried to defend its siblings during the raid, was there. and it had a human child on its back. "Get down from there," the child's mother was yelling. "That thing could hurt you." But the child, a 8-year-old girl named Sophie, was laughing. "It's okay, Mom, she's nice. She let me climb up." The baby dragon seemed happy to have a rider. It walked around the square carefully, making sure not to jostle Sophie. Other children ran up, asking if they could have a turn. Lisa felt through the bond that the dragon wasn't upset or threatened. It was having fun, playing with these small humans who weren't afraid of it. "It's safe," Lisa called to the worried parents. The dragons like children. They remind them of their own babies. Karen was taking notes frantically. "This is incredible. Interspecies bonding at a fundamental level. The social implications are enormous. Not everything was easy. There were challenges and misunderstandings. Some colonists were afraid of the dragons. Some dragons were too rough when playing and accidentally broke things. There was an incident where a teenage dragon breathed fire too close to a storage building and nearly caused a disaster. But they worked through each problem. The humans learned to respect the dragon's need for space and heat. The dragons learned to be careful around human structures. Communication improved as more colonists developed weak telepathic bonds with the dragons. Lisa became the official translator and ambassador. It was exhausting work. Every disagreement, every question, every decision had to go through her. But she didn't complain. She had found her purpose. 3 months after the raid, the Galactic Council made an official announcement. The dragons of Drakkar 7 were recognized as a sentient species with full rights. The planet would be a protected joint territory, governed by both humans and dragons. The news spread across the galaxy. Other species were amazed. Humans, the newest members of the galactic community, had done something unprecedented. They had formed a true alliance with a species that couldn't even speak their language. Not everyone was happy about it. The Zentari merchant guilds were angry about losing access to such valuable specimens. Some other species thought humans were being naive, trusting creatures they barely understood. But others saw it differently. They saw potential. A delegation from the Centauri arrived. They were an old, wise species who had been in space for thousands of years. Their leader, Lyran, requested a meeting with the dragons. "We have heard much about your alliance," Lyran said through Lisa's translation. "We would like to learn from it. Perhaps there are species on our worlds who we have overlooked, thinking them mere animals when they might be potential partners." The copper dragon responded, and Lisa translated. "The dragons say that intelligence comes in many forms. Just because someone doesn't build machines or cities doesn't mean they lack wisdom." 1 year after the Zentari raid, Drakkar 7 had become the most famous planet in human space. The small mining colony had grown into a thriving city, where humans and dragons lived side by side. Buildings were designed with wide passages for dragons to move through. Parks had areas with high temperatures where dragons could rest comfortably. The baby dragons from that first attacked nest were now teenagers in dragon terms. They were as big as elephants and still growing. The sapphire dragon that Lisa had saved had bonded strongly with her. The colonists called the dragon Blue, and she followed Lisa everywhere like a loyal dog. Except this dog could fly and breathe fire. Lisa sat in what had once been the colony cafeteria but was now the embassy of dragon-human relations. The building had been expanded with dragon-sized doors and reinforced floors. Papers and data pads covered her desk. Being an ambassador meant endless paperwork. "Another request for a diplomatic visit," Pete said, walking in with a new stack of files. He had become her assistant, helping manage the flood of requests from species across the galaxy who wanted to meet the dragons. "Who this time?" Lisa asked, rubbing her tired eyes. "The Veltorians. They say they have intelligent ocean creatures on their homeworld and want advice on how to establish communication." Lisa smiled. "Tell them yes. Schedule it for next month, and make sure they bring marine biologists, not just diplomats." Blue's head appeared in the doorway, too big to fit the rest of her body through. She chirped at Lisa in concern, sensing her friend's exhaustion through their bond. "I'm okay, Blue," Lisa said, reaching up to pat the dragon's snout. "It's just a lot of work." Through their connection, Blue sent a feeling of wanting to help. Dragons couldn't read or write, but they were learning to understand human emotions and needs. Blue knew Lisa was stressed even if she didn't fully understand why paperwork was stressful. "Want to go for a flight later?" Lisa asked. "Clear my head?" Blue's response was pure joy. She loved flying with Lisa on her back. It made her feel important and useful. Jake Morrison entered the embassy looking excited. "Lisa, you need to see this. Karen made a breakthrough." They went to what had been the geological lab but was now a xenobiology research center. Karen had dedicated herself to understanding dragon communication and biology. The room was filled with screens showing brain scans, telepathic wave patterns, and complex charts. "I figured it out," Karen said without preamble. "Why you can hear the dragons when most people can't." "I'm special?" Lisa joked. "Actually, no. That's the point. You're not special, you're just trained. During your military service, did you work with the empaths of Sirius 9? Lisa nodded. "For about 6 months. We were part of a joint task force. The empaths can sense emotions naturally." "Exactly. Your brain was exposed to telepathic communication before. It learned how to process those signals. That's why when the dragons called, you could hear it. Your brain already knew what to look for." "So other people could learn this too?" Jake asked. "Not just could. They are." Karen pulled up a chart showing brain scans of 20 colonists. "Everyone who spends significant time around the dragons is developing weak telepathic sensitivity. It's like learning a new language. The more you're exposed to it, the better you get." This was huge news. It meant that the connection between humans and dragons wasn't unique to Lisa. It meant anyone could learn to communicate with them given enough time and exposure. "We should start a school," Lisa said suddenly. "Teach people how to understand telepathic communication. Not just for dragons, but for any species that communicates this way." "The council would fund that," Jake agreed. "They're desperate to understand how we did this. How we went from first contact to full alliance in less than a year." The school opened 3 months later. Students came from across human space and beyond. Some were diplomats hoping to improve their skills. Others were scientists studying telepathy. A few were just curious people who wanted to meet dragons. Lisa taught the first class herself. 15 students sat in a room with reinforced walls. Through the large window they could see the dragon nesting area where several adult dragons rested with their young. "Telepathy isn't magic," Lisa explained. "It's communication. Just like learning any language, it takes practice and patience. The first step is learning to quiet your own thoughts and listen." She led them through meditation exercises. Most humans' minds were constantly full of words, planning, worrying, remembering. Dragons didn't think in words. They thought in emotions, images, and sensations. To understand them, humans had to learn to think that way too. "Don't try to translate dragon thoughts into English," Lisa instructed. "Just feel what they're feeling. See what they're showing you. Understanding will come later." One student, a young woman named Claire, raised her hand nervously. "What if we do it wrong? What if we offend them?" Ember, who had been resting near the building, lifted its head. Through the telepathic link that now extended to everyone in the room faintly, they all felt the dragon's amusement. "Dragons don't offend easily." Lisa translated the feeling. "They're patient. They know we're trying. That effort matters more than getting it perfect." By the end of the first month, half the students could sense basic emotions from the dragons. By the end of 3 months, most could exchange simple ideas. It wasn't as clear or strong as Lisa's bond with Ember and Blue, but it was real communication. The success of the school attracted attention from species that had struggled with first contact situations for centuries. The Horgath, a warrior race, had a planet in their territory with intelligent insect colonies. They could never figure out how to communicate because the insects didn't respond to any traditional methods. "Send us teachers," their representative requested. "Show us how your humans learn to understand creatures so different from themselves." Lisa trained a team of instructors and sent them to the Horgath homeworld. Within 6 months, they reported success. The insect colonies communicated through pheromones and collective consciousness. Once the Horgath learned to quiet their aggressive thoughts and sense more subtle signals, they could feel the colony's intentions. More success stories followed. The Prin made contact with energy beings living in their sun. The Quarians discovered that some of their pets were actually sentient and had been trying to communicate for generations. The Veltorians, true to their request, established dialogue with their ocean dwellers. All of this started because one human heard a dragon's call and decided to help. But not everyone was happy with these changes. The Zentari Merchant Guild saw their profits dropping as more species recognized creatures as sentient rather than commodities. Captain Vexthor, released from prison on a technicality, swore revenge against the humans and dragons who had ruined his raid. He gathered a fleet, larger than before. This time he brought not just raiders but warships. He didn't care about capturing dragons anymore. He wanted to destroy them and the humans who protected them. The attack came at night. 20 warships dropped out of hyperspace and immediately opened fire on the planet. Defense satellites exploded. The colony's shields flickered under the assault. Alarms screamed across the city. Humans ran for shelters while security forces scrambled to their positions. The dragon adults roared challenges into the sky, their throats glowing with building heat. Lisa was thrown out of bed by the first explosion. She grabbed her comm unit and called Jake. "What's happening?" "Centauri fleet, big one. They're not here to steal this time, Lisa. They're here to kill." Blue burst through the wall of Lisa's quarters, too worried about her human to bother with doors. Through their bond, Lisa felt the dragon's fear and anger. "We fight," Lisa told her, "like we did before, together." She climbed onto Blue's back. The dragon launched into the air, bursting through the ceiling and into the night sky. Other dragons were already rising to meet the threat. Ember led them, the copper dragon's scales glowing like molten metal. The Centauri ships fired at the dragons, but the creatures were fast and hard to hit. They dove and weaved through the weapons fire, getting closer to the ships. When they were near enough, they breathed fire. In space, their fire couldn't burn for long, but it was hot enough to damage shields and melt hull plating. Lisa felt the telepathic network activate on a scale she had never experienced before. Every dragon on the planet joined in, linking their minds together, and they pulled in every human who had developed telepathic sensitivity. Suddenly, Lisa wasn't just connected to Blue and Ember. She was connected to dozens of minds, all thinking and feeling as one. It was overwhelming and beautiful. Through this massive network, the dragons shared everything they sensed with every human, and the humans shared their technical knowledge with the dragons. Dragons learned where to strike ships to cause maximum damage. Humans learned to sense the flow of battle in ways their equipment couldn't show them. "They're surrounding us," Jake reported from the command center. "We can't hold out long." "We don't have to hold out," Lisa replied, her voice carrying to every human in the telepathic network. "We just have to last until help arrives." "What help?" "I sent a distress call an hour ago. To everyone." She had done more than that. Through the telepathic network, she had sent out a call for aid to every species that had learned from the Human-Dragon Alliance. Every planet where they had helped establish communication with